Hey guys, Father Ross here, and in the middle of all this lockdown stuff, I thought I would go ahead and interview someone that I know from seminary, Father Jon Miskin from Arkansas. And John, you kind of have a unique story because you've been quarantined for the past couple of weeks, right?
Yes, 15 days tomorrow. I've been counting down.
Wow, what brought that about?
So, just a random connection. I went down to visit my brother and sister-in-law in Little Rock. I live up in Northwest Arkansas. So I went down. It's a 3-hour trip. I was going to stay with them for just 2 days and then pop back to the parish. And it turns out that my sister-in-law's boss was in contact with a confirmed case of COVID-19. He was at a church barbecue like 3 weeks ago before people were really kind of social distancing or anything. So he went to the office the next day where my sister-in-law was in contact with him. And so just the chance between it passing between her boss and her, and then to me while I was visiting, I, as well as my pastor back in Northwest Arkansas, just said, you really just need to stay there and hold up for the next 15 days. So yeah, I've been counting down. Tomorrow is my last day here, so I'm very excited to get back.
That is very exciting. It's been probably about a month and a half since we saw each other in person. That was we went to St. Meinrad together, and so we had like a little kind of reunion. And it looks like your beard is slightly longer. And you know what happened to the clerics? Is it because you're just vegging out there?
So yeah, I packed for 2 days and I wasn't going to do any priestly things while I was here, right? So I have just 2 sets of sweatpants, this shirt, which is just a t-shirt, and then 2 other shirts, and that is literally it. So I packed no clerics. I've just been doing laundry every other day, just about, trying to keep clothes on.
Wow, that's a pretty
It
sad
is awful.
story. So in the midst of all that, how's that all going? Are you bored yet?
Definitely super bored. Luckily, my brother and sister-in-law have a little boy. His name is John as well, actually. He's my namesake. So he's been keeping me entertained, and also I just have the utmost respect for stay-at-home parents because my sister-in-law is working at home, and then my brother is still going to work. And so basically I'm on babysitting duty all day, which has been just an adventure in itself. So I've been entertained by him, luckily, but definitely a very different pace of life. And yeah, I'm kind of done with it. Don't
Has
tell.
he been teaching you stuff you never knew?
He's been teaching me stuff that I've never knew.
I bet he has.
Oh man, he teaches me something every day, I'm sure. I don't know. I haven't really reflected on what he's been teaching me. It's definitely taught me, for real though, it's taught me a lot about family life, which has been interesting to kind of get an inside look on just living with a real young family and how to even kind of relate to them in ministry going forward. It's been kind of interesting.
Interesting. So what have you been, okay, so you've been babysitting your nephew, you said. Are the days going slowly or quickly in quarantine?
The first week, yeah, so I'm on day 14 now. The first 5 days were the longest days ever. I was just counting down the hours for my brother to get back home, because when he got home, the work day was over for everyone, so I could just relax. So those days just dragged, it took forever. And then last week just shot by. I have no idea why. Last week went fast. Maybe it was just falling into the routine of it. And now these last 2 days are dragging really long again. So yeah,
it's really weird because obviously this is Father John and my first year as a priest, right? Not even a year yet.
right.
And who would have ever thought? I mean, we're getting ready for Easter and for Holy Week. This is how we celebrate our very first Easter and our first Holy Week.
I mean, I've thought a lot about this. So I made the announcements to the parish that we were shutting everything down the week before I came, the day before I came down to visit my brother and sister-in-law. And it was very emotional moment to announce to the parish, one, that we're just canceling not canceling, we're still having masses, but they're not public masses anymore. And then to talk about the Triduum and say that we are not celebrating those publicly. And it hit me it really cut to the heart. It was very emotional, just trying to say the words to people, just saying, we're not going to be celebrating. And yeah, so as you're preparing for ordination, you start dreaming about like what the ordination is going to look like. And I found that this first year of priesthood, I dream about the first things that I'm going to be able to do. And so I've been dreaming a lot about like the Triduum, because I was actually going to be celebrating. We have 2 parishes that we serve, and I was actually going to be serving, like being the main celebrant at one of the parishes. So I was going to do all of the Triduum for the first time, and I was just dreaming and dreaming and dreaming about it. And yeah, now it's all gone to the wayside.
Yeah, it is really, really strange for me. And the weird thing, sorry, I'm plugging in my computer, it's running out of charge. I'm never prepared. But I was
I'm shocked by that.
Okay. But what I was gonna say is it is really weird. I think, I don't know, how many times have you had a chance to actually, do you guys like live tape your masses or live stream or videotape your masses down there? Because that's what we've been doing. And it's really weird saying mass to a camera.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I have not done anything with the parish. So we are live streaming masses, but I think it's super important for people to see that the church is being used, that like the mass is being celebrated in the church, because that's the root of people's faith, right? And so I have not done any live stream for the parish. I have been every Sunday, I've been doing just Google Hangout masses with my family. And some random people that end up clinging on. And that has been, there's really great things and really terrible things about it. One, it's Google Hangout, so it's interactive, like we're doing this interview. It's interactive, so I can hear people responding. It's really bizarre because the Wi-Fi changes the speed of it all. So it all gets garbled. But I just like celebrating to a camera, celebrating the mass to just a camera has been, it is not sacramental in a sense, like it's not the human interaction. How do I want to say this? You can edit all this out.
Are you saying that people aren't responding to you? Like a camera doesn't I mean, I'm pretty much used to people just sitting there like a camera, but maybe for you, they actually are kind of alive when you preach.
Yeah. For the Google Hangout, they are alive.
Oh, good.
So I get to see their reactions to things a little bit. But at the same time, it's not the incarnational, like sacramental way of celebrating the Eucharist, And so it's the distance, the physical distance, and then mediated between the camera, just makes it feel, for me, it's been a little bit just drier. It's still meaningful and impactful, but it doesn't hit to my heart as much. It kind of feels like I'm practicing a mass in front of a camera.
It is. I totally agree. It's kind of like being back in seminary, because we used to videotape our homilies and stuff. And so it kind of does have that feel where it's like, yeah, it almost doesn't feel real. I mean, it's real, but you have all these other distractions to kind of worry about, I think.
This last Sunday, I did a mass for my family on camera. And during the consecration, I kind of had to remind myself that, like, yes, I am really a priest. And when I am saying these words, this is really happening. Like this Eucharist is actually being changed. I'm doing mass just in my brother and sister-in-law's kitchen. And so like I had to kind of remind myself, like, yeah, this is actually the mass, it just didn't quite feel right,
Right. Yeah, it's definitely a unique experience. But I bet was some of your family, like your parents, kind of glad to be able to watch that though? Because I know for mine, yesterday, or what is today, Monday, yesterday, I had some people, or my parents were watching, and they really haven't been up here yet for a weekend mass. And so they actually took the mass and they shared it to a whole bunch of people
Right.
And so, which was, I didn't expect, but it's kind of nice because people from far away can still feel like they're a part of that, or be able to
Yeah.
kind of watch that happen.
What I'll say is, like, it's very bizarre. So you're videotaping a mass, and then you're kind of just sending it out, and so it becomes like depersonalized in a sense. Like the mass, what's beautiful about the mass and like doing it, celebrating as a community, is that I am celebrating with you, the people in the pews. You know, so I know who I'm talking to. When I preach, I get to preach to people. Like I see their faces, and I know who I'm talking to. When you're like videotaping and live streaming masses, it's like you don't really know who's going to be watching. So it makes it very difficult to prepare for a homily. It makes it very difficult to kind of like celebrate because I don't know who I'm celebrating with. It becomes just kind of this general, I'm celebrating for the people, you know, and a little bit less, it feels just a little bit less personal, even though by the grace of the Eucharist, it's really not.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this is, I mean, like we said, this is just really unusual. And especially as we go towards, again, as we go towards Holy Week, it's going to be weird celebrating those liturgies when
Yeah.
obviously this is, you know, that is the most Holy Week of the year, but we're going to have to kind of do these things kind of, and even I was looking at some of the stuff from the Vatican, and it looks like some of like the Easter fire is supposed to be kind of taken out of the picture, and the washing of the feet. So some of our customs you probably won't see if you're watching a mass that's live streamed or videotaped.
Yeah, it's not even gonna look like something that we recognize, which is very bizarre. It's going to be authentically the Triduum, and it's going to be celebrated correctly according to the Church, but it's going to look odd, you know.
Right.
It kind of it's one of those other things that you're like. We are a sacramental people. We are, as Catholics, we hold on to the ritual of how we celebrate, and to kind of give some of these things up, it really hurts.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So this sounds all very dour right now.
This is really depressing. Thanks for getting us depressed.
Like this, as gloom and doom, but
right.
It definitely hurt. There's definitely sacrifices to be made.
Yeah. What do you think? I was going to say, what was I going to say? Oh yeah. What have you been doing because you've been cooped up in your house or in your brother's house for so long? What have you been doing spiritually to kind of nourish yourself? There might be some people in the same situation as you, kind of quarantined. A lot of people are at home. So what have you been doing to kind of keep things up in terms of, you know, your prayer or spiritual life?
Yeah. So I'm a very extroverted person, and so much of my prayer in the past, like through my priesthood and even in the seminary, has been kind of a reflection on how God is working through and in me and around me during my day. All right. So it's more about theological reflection and inviting Christ into like my encounters throughout the day. That's like my prayer life in a way. And that has been really taken away from me by not ministering to people, by not doing priestly things all day. I don't have those kind of daily interactions to kind of reflect with and see where Christ is calling me. And so it's kind of been at first, the first week was perhaps this is why it went so long, honestly, is that it just felt so dry. I felt this very much of a loss of a purpose, loss of an identity. And my prayer life, because of that, suffered greatly. I ended up doing this, like, it was a Google Hangout with a small group in Northwest Arkansas, and we talked about intercessory prayer and what it is. And all of a sudden, my eyes and my spirit were kind of opened up and really enlivened, so that I came to like a fuller understanding of what my spirituality as a priest is. And it kind of transformed the next week, and that is so I've been doing a lot of intercessory prayer, calling to mind people that I know that I need to be praying for. But a lot of the time in the past, my intercessory prayer has been just running down the list, you know, just shooting God the list of like things that I want and things that I need. But I have like been spending more time with just presenting a name to God and inviting him to bless them in whatever way they need, and then allowing the Spirit to move my heart into action as well. So asking the question, not just giving God a name and saying, all right, you deal with it, but allowing the Spirit to move my heart and say, okay, even in my quarantine, what can I do? And maybe that is just pray. Maybe that is just offer some sacrifice for them in the day. But maybe it's reaching out to them, sending them a text to someone that I know is lonely. Well, I've been thinking a lot about people that I have been counseling these last couple of weeks, and just sending them an email saying, like, I'm still here. I'm thinking and praying about you. Here's some advice about like what we kind of last talked about. So intercessory prayer has become more than just like presenting the list to God and allowing it to fuel the ministry that I'm still doing, you know? And I think that is so central to the priestly life in the first place, which is kind of funny because it was something that I feel like I was missing before this experience. So intercessory prayer is the heart of the priest. It is being the mediator between God and the world. And so I've kind of allowed that to enter into my identity as a priest, and it has been very beautiful for my, like, just in my prayer these last couple of days as I've allowed that to happen. So that would be my advice to people, I guess, when you ask, like, what is your advice for people in their prayer life? Allow intercessory prayer to be more than just presenting a list, and just really meditate on these people that you're praying about. Ask what they need, and then ask, how can I help the Spirit in this work? You know, it kind of, it's more than just giving God your wish list.
Yeah, I think that's really good insight. It's just interesting that it kind of took you to be kind of isolated and quarantined, just to kind of realize that, or at least deepen that understanding of what it means to be an intercessor. And obviously we do that every day, like you said, at the Eucharist, but
right,
to actually get away from people in order to intercede more powerfully, it's just kind of ironic, you know?
Yeah.
And I just think, for me, as I reflected on it, this isn't all bad in terms of like this lifestyle right now, because it's almost like we get, several weeks just to be able to be in the place of someone in religious life, someone that's actually like cloistered and has that spirituality in which they're kind of cut off from the rest of the world, but to understand how that can help deepen the relationship with God in the midst of that. So
that's really interesting. I haven't thought about that.
Yeah. So right now we're diocesan priests, but we're almost kind of living as monks in a way.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
That is fascinating.
Well, and I think a lot of people will say throughout this time, it's been good for them to kind of come to the understanding of what really matters. And that's their family and those that they love, and to be able to spend time with them can be a pretty powerful thing as well.
Yeah.
So.
And I know that people don't have all the time in the world on their hands. Like, I find myself with all the time in the world because I'm not doing kind of ministry, but I know a lot of people are still having to work from home and do a lot. But this opportunity is like a forced retreat. You know, it's like we're forced to retreat from the world and come into, like, we can allow that to be an encounter with God and a reality in our journey of faith, you know? And so this is such an incredible opportunity, like you said, to kind of step back from the world, realize what's important, and kind of orient ourselves towards God and family in a different way than before.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, now to some important questions. Number one, do you have enough toilet paper? And number two, who's been cooking this whole time? Like, how have you been surviving? Because I know there's been a lot of pizza rolls.
Excellent questions. Luckily, my sister-in-law is an incredible cook, and so she has been cooking. I do cook a little bit for myself at the rectory, but nothing really fancy. So I've actually been eating way better than I have in the
Do you
last
like
couple
the
of months.
frozen? I do frozen burritos. Those are really good. I think you put them in for 115 into the microwave.
My go-tos when I'm stuck at the rectory by myself and like I have to cook for myself is Campbell's soup. You put them in the microwave for a minute, 30 seconds, and they're like hearty meals.
Right.
Not healthy, but it gets me through the day. The first question about toilet paper, I have not had issue. I'm actually very confused with the whole buying up of all the toilet paper in the world because I didn't realize that people used toilet paper in such large quantities.
Yeah. I mean, I know I don't.
I
I'm
have
not going
been
into
using
more
the same
specifics.
amount of toilet
It
paper,
takes me a
and
while.
What's that?
Without going into specifics, it takes me a while to use up a roll usually.
I would say so too. There's actually a really fun icebreaker that we did, and that was you take a roll of toilet paper and you like unroll as much as you would use, and then like you, without telling them that, you just tell them to do that, and then after that you say, okay, for every square you have to say a fun fact about yourself. And so it was like a good icebreaker. But yeah, I guess, I don't know, people use an incredible amount of toilet paper now.
What I don't understand, I was at one of our grocery stores the other day, and all the toilet paper was gone, but the Kleenex were still there.
Yeah, people don't want Kleenex. People don't want to actually like blow their nose like sanitarily.
Well, I guess you can use toilet paper for that too.
Yeah.
So
any paper. My brother has actually the first couple of days, it was kind of a joke, but I don't know how much he was actually joking. Like my sister-in-law would get like a paper towel to like wipe the counter down, and he would be like, "Why don't you use a towel?" Because like there are a finite amount of paper towel like in the world right now. We cannot use paper towels. Right. So yeah, I guess we're kind of on conservation mode right
now. Yeah, but you're surviving. You got everything you need.
I'm not hurting for anything.
That's good. All right. Well, thanks for joining me, Jon, and Father Jon, I should say. It's been good to talk to you, to see that you're still alive. You told me a couple weeks ago about your situation, so I thought, I thought I'd check up on you and make sure things were okay. And it's also good for people to be able to hear about your situation because they might be in a similar situation, in their context. Yeah. So, and it provides something to do for us.
Well, I just really appreciate it. Honestly, it's just like nice to do something formally.
To communicate with someone.
Yeah, to actually communicate with someone, see someone face to face,
Right.
And it's cool to be able to witness in this small way to you and to the rest of your community. So thank you for the opportunity.
It's too bad
also,
I was the one you had to see. Like you could have seen someone else, but I was the one that you happened to be able to
I'm so blessed.
Thanks for that answer. That's the correct answer. All right. Well, thanks again, everyone. Thanks again for joining, everyone. Hopefully next time we'll be back with another guest. We'll get to see what's going on in their life.